So divorce rates are now at 50%, probably will be 60% in another decade or so. How can you protect your assets that you want to hand down to your children if they're getting married? And this applies to both men and women. So I know some wealthy fathers who've got daughters, as well as some who've got sons, and are concerned about having to gifting it to them in their lifetime, and then they are married and divorced. Spouse would have a claim on half of their assets. It's not very fair, or doesn't sound very fair, that your assets that you've saved up and worked hard for, you gift them to your children, and they get taken by the other party. And it doesn't matter who's at fault. That's the problem with Britain. In the UK, they don't care who's at fault. They don't care whether who's committed adultery. So if you, for example, you've got a daughter and you hand her some assets and you've given her a couple of £100,000 and her husband's a bit of a bum and he's also an adulterer, he can divorce her or she can divorce him, but he can claim half of your assets. Is that fair? No, not really. I don't think so. How do you protect against that? One of the ways is to create a trust where it's called a discretionary life trust. The other way is to make sure that they don't actually get married. So why do you need to have a registered marriage in the UK? You don't have to have one. You can get married under some religious ceremony and not have a registered marriage. You can tell everyone you're married, get a ring and live together and just say you're married. That's sufficient. It means that the court can't intervene and take your assets according to their rules and their laws. So I know it's a difficult topic to talk about, but I think it's really important that you need to consider these factors before your children get married, work things out. There are some things like prenuptial agreements, but they're not always valid in the UK. They're not legally recognised, and the court can basically overturn your prenuptial agreement if they feel that it's not fair to the other party. But I would say it makes sense to have three boxes, like one is your assets, joint assets, and your partner's assets. It's a fair way of running things. It's an Islamic way of running things. So if you're a wife, you get to keep all of your income and your property. It's yours. It's not your husband's. He doesn't have a right over it. So if you're a daughter getting married and you work in your first few years, you don't have any children, all of that income is yours to save or to invest and set yourself a future. Your husband's still got to provide for you. He's got to provide accommodation, food, clothing. Very lucky you women. So under Islamic rules, there's a lot of advantages for women. Obviously, once you've got children, it's very hard to work for women. But a husband shouldn't stop his wife from working if she wants to. She can work afterwards. And she gets to keep all of her income. Remember that. Even the money that she inherits from her parents, that's hers, not his.